Today is Wednesday, May 28th, 2014. I'm Pamela Stern. I'm here with Andreas Hovland, and we are in the Fraser River Discovery Center interviewing Kathleen Ouellet-Martin. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, it's very good, very good.
So thanks, Catherine. Wonder if we might start out with tell us a little bit about your trajectory of becoming the executive director here.
How I got here.
How you got here.
Okay, sounds good. How far back do you want me to go?
Start where you think is appropriate.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll start with my, with my education. I went to SFU in the history department, and I did a degree in history, or in human sciences. History was my major. And then I did a post-baccalaureate diploma in public history, which got me interested in museums, archives, and all that good stuff. And so my goal was always to have a profession in history, in museums. And when I got out of SFU, I did a variety of little jobs. I did some volunteer work for the Langley Museum. I did some archaeology at Fort Langley. And then my first summer job in a museum was at the White Rock Museum and Archives. And then...
When was that?
Oh, that was the summer of 95. Summer of 95.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I applied for a position at the Delta Museum and Archives. So that was my first, I would say my first, in the context of this interview, it was my first waterfront job, because it was in Lanner, and of course the village of Lanner is, intricately related to the water, and it's a fishing village, and so I really, I skipped a step. Before that, I worked at the Gulf of Georgia Cannery for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first real job with the water. And I really fell in love with the Fraser River at that time, simply because it was the whole history of the canneries and fishing on the river, and the Gulf of Georgia Cannery is such a site, right? It's just such an important, significant site for the history and the culture of the Fraser River. So that was my first bit. Then I went to Delta, and then after that I stayed there for 10 years. So I was at the cannery, I guess, from 93 to 95. Then what am I talking about? Hang on a second here. Let me go back in my life. I was at the cannery from 95, 96, and then Delta in 97. There you go. Sorry about that. Yeah. And then I stayed in Delta till 2008 when I took the job here. So when I heard of the opportunity here, still working on the Fraser, about the Fraser, and in my community, because I live in New Westminster. I moved from Quebec in 89, and I've always been in New West since. So I really wanted to work here and live here, and it was just sort of the perfect job for me. And so I've been here since 2008, the fall of 2008.
Is that when this facility opened?
Yes and no. No is the better answer, actually. The facility was built in early 2000, opened in 2001, but mainly to serve the casino boat. Right? There was the Star of Fortune casino moored right here, and they needed a deluxe ramp, a storage room, and so it was built to accommodate the casino, knowing that the Fraser River Discovery Center would eventually take over the building. So there was a preview center in the front here. This part was actually opened in 2001, and so it was the lower floor, not exactly as it is today, but roughly the same. And it was a preview center for what was going to be the big center later on. So from 2001 to 2000, and then that's where I get a little fuzzy with the dates, but I believe it closed operations in 2005 for the renovation. The renovation started. Then it was halted because it was disrupting the casino operations. So we halted construction. That was before me, that's why I'm a little fuzzy about it, but it halted. The casino then closed in 2007, and that's when we started construction again. And then the construction was not completed until the fall of 2008 when I arrived. So I arrived at the tail end of the construction period. And when I say construction, it was really a massive renovation of the building to transform it from a casino facility or a casino adjacent facility to an interpretive center. So the Discovery Center Society had raised some funds, $3 million, and they did this renovation over the course of 2007, 8, and 2007, 2008, and then I arrived to reopen the facility.
Okay.
Was that the question?
I think that was the question. So, is there...
No, that wasn't the question. The question was, when does this open?
Oh.
So it opened in March 2009, is the short answer.
March 2009.
March 2009 is when the facility opened again for the public.
Okay. This building was purpose-built for the casino?
It was purpose-built for the casino with us in mind, which is a little, it was really designed for us long-term, but it served the casino for several years, so from 2001 to 2007. And so, like I said, we had this little part here, the ramp, the rotunda, the ramp up to the second floor was completely different. There was a balcony, and there was the second floor wasn't used at all except for a long hallway boarded in that you took to make your way to the casino.
Okay, but but I know this is before your time here.
Yeah.
But the casino was supposed to sail in the river, but did it ever?
It did, and it did for a little bit, and my understanding is that the currents were fairly strong, and it became a little too complicated to time it with the currents, and I think also, this is all me just saying what I heard. It's,
right.
You might want to talk to the city for that one, but I think it was just business-wise, it was wiser to have the casino always moored so people could come in and out as they wished, rather than have to wait for their ship to come in.
It certainly makes more business sense.
Yeah. So I think the sheen of gambling while sailing kind of lacked its luster after a little while. But a good person might be about the building itself and its purpose and how it was built would be Mark Allison at the city.
Okay. I know Mark.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of insights on how this was built and the intentions and all that, so we might be
okay.
Lisa Spitali, of course, as well. But
she's
she's a little busy too. Yeah, but I know Mark was quite involved in the.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about how the Discovery Center Society and how they how they got formed and what
that I'm a little more versed about for sure.
Okay.
So the society was formed in 1989, and it came out of, it was a little bit of a wave from Expo 86. There was, after Expo 86, there was such a pride, a little bit like the Olympics did in 2010. There's a lot of pride in being BC and what we stand for and what we have to offer. And there was a group of volunteers who thought it would be really great to have a permanent building, or not just a building, but a place where BC could be celebrated, and they, I think they identified the Fraser River as what was the anchor, so to speak, of BC. And so a few people with a lot of passion for the river got together, formed the society, and right away started to gather support and interest for it. As early as 1991, I believe there was they formed the Fraser River Hall of Fame.
Oh.
So inducting people, companies, organizations who have made a significant contribution to the Fraser River over the years. And that was a way to bring attention and raise money for the future Fraser River Discovery Center.
Okay.
From the get-go, New Westminster was identified as the place where it should be, probably because of just the strong connections to the Fraser River. And also, early on, it was very much driven by the working river, right? The impact of the working river on BC. So, without a doubt, there was consideration for the cultural and environmental impact that the Fraser River has, but the thrust was very much to honor the economic engine that the Fraser River is. So from the get-go, a lot of the names in the Fraser River Hall of Fame are people from the working river.
Right.
Lumber,
Okay.
tugging, people that have made their mark.
Is the Hall of Fame here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have a list.
Okay.
You might be interested
Yes,
in that
I
list.
would.
A lot of people have gone now,
Right.
but there's still, and I bet you a lot of people you've already talked to.
I'm sure
Yeah.
several of them, yes.
But yeah. So it's been going without interruption since 1991. So we're on our 23rd name now. We skipped a couple of years, but
Okay.
yeah. So there's some really good names there. And so that's how it developed. And at some point, of course, people like Lucille Johnston. You may have.
I've come across that name.
Yes,
that's Tugboat Lucille.
Tugboat Annie, River Queen, Mighty Lucille. She was known, and a lot of great names too. She was. She started in the 1940s as what they called a Girl Friday, which was just a receptionist with Rivtow. At the time, Rivtow had 3 boats and a handful of employees, and she moved from receptionist, and at the end of her 45-year career, she was the president of the company, and by then the company was making $250 million a year or so and had like 1,500 employees. So she was a real force, a real legend on the river. And when she got a hold of this project, it just boomed and flourished, and she moved heaven and earth to make this happen. And we owe a lot of the success of this facility to her and her energy in gathering other people who believed in the working Fraser River. And there's still some people on our board today who were here, served at the time that Lucille was here, and then came back to us, and some volunteers as well. She's made a real impact on the place.
Is she still alive?
She died in 2004 or 5.
Okay.
I believe it was December 31st, 2004.
Okay.
And she was just honored last week, actually, into the BC Business Hall of Fame.
Oh.
The BC Business Laureate Hall of Fame, something like that. I can get the information for you posthumously. Yeah. So she was a real force, and she was here. I can't remember the dates that she was involved in the Discovery Center, but it was something like early 2000 until nearly to her death, or maybe late 90s. And so she really helped fundraise for that $3 million.
Okay. I was going to ask you what it was that she did that was...
Fundraising mainly, and really getting support from big companies on the river, making fundraising. But one of her biggest fundraising accomplishments is that she was able to gather 10 big names from the river to donate $100,000 each.
Wow.
To this. Yeah, it's quite the convincing power. And so that made the $1 million that we needed to get a BC Canada infrastructure grant to get the $3 million we needed to renovate the place to our needs.
Okay.
And so.
Okay.
And that sums it up. And after that, it was the construction period. Then I come in to to populate the place. Because when I started, they handed me a very beautiful building, but there was nothing in it.
Right.
So I always said that I came in to help give a soul to the building, right? Like I knew the vision and I understood what it was, and up until then, it had been to have a mecca, to have the building, to have the brick and mortar. But after that, you needed to fill it, and that's been my job ever since with the team.
Okay, so how did you do that? How did you go about doing that?
With a lot of hard work. I was lucky because there was a good plan in place to explain to me and my team what the Discovery Center was supposed to be, and it was supposed to be and is a representation of the Fraser River in all its aspects. So the environmental side of the Fraser River, the cultural, social-cultural, and the economic side of the river. So those are our three pillars, and they've just been the guiding factor to fill the place with exhibits. The other bit of philosophy of what the center is supposed to be is that it's supposed to be a place where exhibits rotate and constantly change and flow, to use an analogy with the Fraser, but to never stay static and just represent these three pillars in a rotating fashion. So that's what guides us. The other thing that guides us clearly is funding. Right. We're a nonprofit society, and we have to be able to fund whatever we're doing. So we are influenced a little bit by the flavor of the day, and when I say that, is a lot of our exhibits have been I've been doing with the environmental side of the river, because that's where a lot of corporate dollars are going these days, is to celebrate water, fresh water, that kind of thing. But we're mindful of our pillars, and in spite of that, we're doing a push now to sort of bring back the balance a little bit, and try to get our three pillars to be a little more even. And so right now we're doing a big push on talking to companies on the river to be able to have more interpretive material in here about the Fraser River, about the working Fraser River. And so the way we go about doing our exhibits is following that philosophy. We find partners, we find funding first, then also partners who are the experts. None of us are experts in everything Fraser River. We all have our bits of expertise. I'm a little bit of a historian. We have a First Nations fishing expert on site. We also have a few environmental fiends, but none of us are experts in everything that has to do with the Fraser. So it's really, really important that every time we approach a subject, we go and work with the experts. So, for example, we did an exhibit called Our Bones Are Made of Salmon, which is about fishing in the Fraser Canyon. And so we spoke to Stolo people who do that, and they've been our resources, and they've been guiding all our content, and they're our trusted advisors, and we do that with all our exhibits.
Okay.
So that's how we go about it.
Okay. Do you find yourself writing a lot of grant applications? Or?
Oh my God, yeah. So I would say nearly 80% of my time is spent writing grants, proposals, making friends in the corporate world, convincing CEOs, societies, grantors, donors that this is an important project, and that all our little sub-projects are important and need funding. That's 80% of my time. The other 80% of my time is spent on the things that an ED should be doing, and that's managing the placement, the human resources, all my the strategic planning with the board, the planning with the staff, the anything from replacing the light bulb that's been missing for a month to the it's just one of those things.
Right. So where do the ideas for the exhibits come from?
They come from a lot of places. We do planning as a staff. I'm a big planner. It's a big deal for me to plan. I love it, and I think it's the only way to get through life. Mind you, plans are meant to be changed, but if you have one, at least you know where to start. So as a staff, we plan early in the year for the following year. So we're, for right now, all our plans for 2015, they're all set. They're done. And how we came about that is we look at what's hot, what's happening, what's interesting, what other people are doing. Let's say there was a group doing a big project on the working waterfront in New Westminster, for example.
For example, yes.
We might want to approach them and say, hey, if you have an exhibit, we could work with you to do that here, like that kind of thing. Native plants were a big deal a few years ago. I mean, they still are, but there was a little bit of a wave, a little bit of a push about them. So we approached the Native Plant Council of BC and said, how about we do a plant exhibit together? We need to tie it to the Fraser River. And so, we go with the things that are trendy and the things that are relevant as well. We're looking right now at things like there is a lot of talk about the coal business next door, and the Kinder Morgan pipeline is coming, and it's going to be coming along the Fraser River, and so we're thinking of doing things like, okay, well, what is in place for disaster response? It's hard to avoid the pipelines coming. They are coming. They're already here.
Right.
And so what happens if there's an emergency? How is that dealt on the Fraser River? So we're starting to talk to people that are involved in that. And there's a good chance we'll have an exhibit about that coming. So it's a little bit of, it's a little bit organic, and it's a little bit planted and planned at the same time. Sometimes we are approached by other people. The large exhibit that we have upstairs right now called My River, My Home came because we were approached by a professor from the University of the Fraser Valley. They work with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Boston, and they're doing a large global study of rivers. And the lady who approached us from the University of the Fraser Valley lives in New West, knew about this facility, and said, wouldn't it be a great thing for our project to be featured through your exhibits so that people understand what we do and how it impacts the Fraser River and how that's important. So we have been working with them for nearly 3 years now. The first bit was them approaching us, then figuring out if we can do this, then how are we going to do this, then doing it. So last year we did this exhibit. And now it continues because the exhibit has spun a school program and also a teacher's resource package, and all that is continuously evolving and changing. So, we had planned to do this exhibit through our planning, but as it develops, there's new opportunities that you seize and work with. Is Port Metro Vancouver involved at all? Yes. Yeah. So they're involved. It's arm's length, mind you. They are a donor. They are one of our best supporters. They were when Fraser River Port Authority was right here in New Westminster. They were very closely interested in this facility, clearly, because it was really, and as I said earlier in the interview, at that time, the goal was very much to celebrate the working Fraser River. So there was a very close link between the two organizations. Alan Domas, who was the CEO, is still on our board. Okay. And now that it's Port Metro Vancouver and it's centralized, they are still very much supportive and interested. There's not as close a relationship because there's a bit of a physical distance, and they're not just about the Fraser River, right? But they have a real interest in the Fraser River, and it's in their interest for port operations to be understood
Uh-huh.
on the Fraser River.
Right.
And so they see us as an important tool in explaining that to people. You know,
Okay.
why is the working river important? Why barging and these terminals and short sea shipping and all that good stuff is really important. We're the ones to explain that to the general public. So they're really happy to work with us. And like I say, they donate. They also help us in expertise when we need it. And yeah, they've been a really good friend and ally.
Okay. Is it at all tricky doing, say, disaster planning, an exhibit on disaster planning, or coal, or that
Oh, yeah.
raises such strong negative feelings?
Yeah, it is, and you know, that's a really good example of when the coal debate was at its hottest last year. We offered an opinion. We're not here. We're a charity, so we will never take a side and defend it. It's not our role. Our role is to educate. Our role is to give a fact-based information in the form of an exhibit, a special event, a program, but never to say, for example, coal is good, coal is bad. What we want to say is, this is what's happening. You make your own decision on whatever is based. But we offered an opinion that said, we believe that what they're proposing is consistent with the working river. This is the kind of activity that you should expect on a working river.
Okay.
And they should be permitted to go ahead as long as our other two pillars are not compromised, right? So if the environment is taken care of through the process and the social-cultural aspect of things is also mitigated or taken care of and ensure that it's done safely, then we don't see a problem because it's consistent with the economic pillar of the Fraser River. So, you know, we offered that as, you know, because we were clearly heads turned to us, you know, what do you think? So, and again, we said, well, we're not here to really, well, we're here to think. I don't want to say we're not here to think, but I'm saying we're not here to, you know, pro or con, but this is how we view the situation. And it was a message that was, I think, a little too subtle to give, because when that was said right away, people said, the Fraser River is for coal. Well, we haven't expressed an opinion for or against. We're just saying, when we look at our three pillars, this is consistent activity, and as long as it's done properly, then we don't see an issue. So it is tricky to answer your question. And as a charity, it's certainly not our role, and you know, there would be a danger in us doing that kind of advocacy. The only advocacy we'll do is advocate for the Fraser River itself in all its glory. Okay. So you know, we advocate for a healthy working river, for a healthy environmental river, and for a thriving social cultural river. That we'll advocate for.
Okay. Those kinds of public statements, those come from the board?
They, yes. So, well, yes. They come from our strategic plan, really. So everything we do is related to our plan and what we stand for and our mission and vision. So they are, they come from me or the board. When things are a little more, I'll say touchy or, you know, politically sensitive, I always make a point of checking with the board to make sure we're on the right track. But it's fairly easy to make an opinion because we have such a strong guiding principle that these three pillars are there. This is what we do. We don't. We're here to educate. So, I mean, you know, these statements don't come out of nothing. They come from who we are and what we do. So yes, they come from the board, but they come from the board and the staff. And you know, we have quite a bit of communication going back and forth between the center and the public. You know, we do the blogs and we do the website and we do the press releases, and not all of this is vetted through the board. It's vetted through me, but it comes from, you know, our operations. And you know, when we did the exhibit on Our Bones Are Made of Salmon, which is about fishing on the Fraser, Aboriginal fishing on the Fraser, there's a lot of sensitive political stuff that goes with that as well. And you know, it was simple for us because we were talking about a very specific side of fishing. We weren't talking about commercial fishing and all the issues that are associated with it. We were talking about Aboriginal fishing and how what it means to Aboriginal people. So we weren't advocating, for example, that Aboriginal fishing is better, more right, less right than commercial fishing by non-Aboriginal people. We're just talking about that. So it's the intention is never to make statements of political value. It's simply to educate. And so when we do it in the spirit of our mission, vision, and our 3 pillars, then we're good.
Okay. Was there controversy around
No
no
controversy whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm just using it as an
I
example.
I could see how that.
Yeah, I just use it as an example of where it you know, it could have been viewed as a political statement, but it isn't, right?
Right.
Just simply because in what we do, we constantly brush against current issues that have political impact.
Well, it sounds like you're trying to do that on
Right.
purpose a little bit. If you're going with stuff that's current.
Well, I mean, and I think then it goes back to the roles of museums and art galleries and interpretive centers, is that we need to be more than just showing the old fishing boat and having nostalgia about it. I think there's a real movement in the museum world that we need to be current. We need to get people to understand their world in the past and in the present and in the future. And the Discovery Center is really, really strong about being a newer style museum. You haven't seen a lot of dusty exhibits in here. Everything is touch it, try it, figure it out, and understand it. And so we will always deal with the current issues. And because our 3 pillars are environment, culture, and industry, they constantly clash, right? And the coal is a really good example of that. And we can't skirt away from these issues. We don't do it on purpose, but they're there, and so avoiding them would just do a disservice to our education goals, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have an office upstairs.
Yes.
Do you look at the river?
Constantly, too often. And it's just fabulous, right? It's just, I'm so lucky. I sit here with my coffee and I write grants, and I may complain about how many grants I write, but you know, I turn around and I see a seal, and I see tugs, and I see people enjoying the boardwalk, and I see guys walking on log booms and tugboats helping each other with a particularly long boom, and it's constant. Or, you know, what's happening at the port today, you see the ships, and some days there's nothing there, some days there's 4 ships, and we look down and we see that there's a ro-ro at the Annecy Island Auto Terminal, and then we go, oh, the cars are in from Japan. You know, it's just it becomes you become very attuned to the river and what's happening, and once in a while you see an oddity, you know, like a couple of people canoeing across the river, which is really weird. You don't see that too often.
Not too often anymore.
You know, and then we all stop working and go, oh, look, right? So it's, there's a real connection, for sure, for sure. Absolutely.
How many employees?
There's also a good question. Permanent, full-time, part-time, volunteers.
Okay.
I'll give
Let's
you the rundown if you
okay,
want.
sure.
Yeah. So we have, start with the most important people, the 56 volunteers.
Wow.
So 56 was our number last year. We had about, 56 volunteers. They donated nearly 2,000 hours of their time. And they do anything from supporting special events, welcoming hosts at the front door, interpreting in the gallery, helping with school programs, cutting paper for crafts. They do everything. We also have volunteers who help with research for exhibits, marketing. So we have a really wide variety of volunteer opportunities. Some come once or twice a year for a special event. Some are here every day, some are here every week. So we're really, really lucky. Then we have the board, of course, which is all volunteers as well. Then I'm the link between the board and the staff. So I manage the staff. And as core staff, we have a director of education. She's full-time, and she's assisted by an education assistant. And then we have an operations assistant who sort of oversees it all and is administrative support. That's our permanent staff.
Okay. So that's relatively small.
Very small.
Yeah.
I complement this with contract work. So we have an exhibit contractor, and she is fairly regular, but she's still on contract because her hours go with the flow of exhibit work that we have. We also have a contract special event person, and she's sort of half-time. And then we have summer students and front of the house students that do the weekends in the winter. So they're part-time, and I have about, and then we have 2 summer students throughout the year, and then we have about 5 on-call people for those weekends, evenings, and special times. So that sort of makes up our force. And of course, when we do a big exhibit, we'll also contract out a fabricator, so a carpenter, and those are all people that sort of come in and out of our lives as we need them. But it is a fairly small workforce for such a big building and a big operation.
And you must work with the schools?
Yes. Yeah.
What's the relationship?
So our director of education, Shannon, is the one who oversees all the school programs with her assistants, and with the help of the operations assistant, we do a lot of communications to school to promote our programs, and they come and take part in all our school programs on field trips. But we also work with schools in terms of developing our education content. And the My River, My Home exhibit was a very good example. We produced the exhibit, and out of it came a school program and a teacher's resource package. And so Shannon has always been very good at recruiting teachers to help us develop the contents and also, what's the word I'm looking for? Evaluate the content. We also work with the UBC School of the PDP program, the Professional Development Program at UBC. They send us students, teachers students, each year to work on a special project with us. And the first year was Our Bones Are Made of Salmon, and it was, again, there's a school program. All the exhibits have a school program that go with them. And so the students came to help us do pilot programs and evaluate the content and tweak it. And this year it was for the My River, My Home equivalent.
Okay.
So we do a lot of work, both in development, in training. A lot of our volunteers are aspiring teachers,
Oh,
and they help us
okay.
present the school programs.
Okay.
Our summer students are aspiring teachers as well, and they help with interpretation in the summer. We have a constant link. For the exhibit, Our Bones of Midasaman, we talk to the Aboriginal educators in US. Absolutely. Again, it's a matter of finding the experts in the field, right?
Right.
Whereas we're all coordinating all this knowledge, but really we need to go find the experts out there.
Right. The sort of the mix of visitors with school groups versus community members versus tourists. What is that?
Okay. So we touch, we reach, we welcome about 30,000 visitors annually. Of those 30,000 visitors, we reach about 20 to, depending on the year, 20 to 22 in special events. So special events are when we have a special viewing in the theater. We have our big River Fest festival in September. So that brings us 5 to 10,000 people, right? It's also when we go to outreach in other communities, because our mandate is from the headwaters to the estuary. Clearly, we can't attend the Prince George festival of this and that because we're too far. But we can certainly attend festivals in Chilliwack, Abbotsford, Langley, Vancouver, Richmond. And every time we attend those, we go with an interpretive kit, and we engage with people, and we count the people that we engage with. So those are parts of our stats as well. That's a small number. It's a few hundred people, a few thousand people, I should say. And the rest are all people that come here. School groups, we have about school groups, daycares, day camps, summer camps, all that take our school program, make about 3,000 people a year. And the rest is all just traffic walking through, so another 10, 15,000. Just people walking in, tourists, local resident. We define our audience in a really broad way. We say the families of Metro Vancouver is our main audience, but also all groups, organizations, and businesses of the river that have an interest in the Fraser River as well. So, and that's the other component of those statistics, is people that come here for meetings about we hold, right now we're the convener basically for the Chambers of Commerce at the Lower Fraser. They're doing a big economic study on the economic impact of the Fraser River. Oh, okay. And you might be interested in talking to them.
I don't know, but I might be, yeah.
You might be. And so they meet here often. They've done all their research, and they've got a big report coming out. And so now it's how to market this report and how to make it not valid, but known. And so they meet here.
Are you involved with that?
We're involved as what we call our convener role, and our convener role is to be able to facilitate these discussions about the river. And that's why when you approach us to present the videos, this is what we do. Yes. Please come and do this here. This is what we want to be able to do, right? Is be able to open our facilities for people to discuss the Fraser River and meet and understand each other about it. So we've held in the past a discussion on the Patillo Bridge, replacement of the Patillo Bridge, right? We had Surrey, New Westminster talking about it here. It was facilitated by the Chamber of Commerce. We've had Port Metro Vancouver using the facility to present their land use plan. We've had Port Metro Vancouver using the facility to talk about their environmental initiatives with the river. The Fraser Surrey Docks met here with the Quayside Board community to present the project about coal when it was first announced, and Fraser Surrey Docks was doing the rounds to explain to the different communities that were potentially going to be impacted, how it was going. So we were a natural place for it, and the Quayside Board approached us to see if we would host that meeting, and again, of course, we would. So this is the kind of other sector of visitors that we have.
Okay. Do you have some questions, Andreas?
So you said you've lived in New West since
Yeah.
1983?
1989.
1989. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things, and also in your work here, that you've seen changing around here, and also in people's perception of what this area is?
Yeah. Well, so when I came to New West in 1989, I came from Quebec, and I lived by the St. Lawrence. So my perception of the river was really based on the St. Lawrence and what I knew, and they're two very different rivers, but so comparable in so many ways, right? The forest in each province, and so when I first came, right away, what struck me about the river was how much there was in the river constantly. The St. Lawrence is always, it seems to always be empty, except for ships passing. Like there's ships, lots of ships, but here was, when you sit in front of New West, and I passed by Saperton every day, and that's where I live, and all the log booms that are constantly in the river. To me, it was amazing. So that's never changed my perception of the river being so busy, so active, and so varied. And then when I first came here, I studied English at Douglas College. And so we were constantly down here at the quay for coffee and a smoke at the time. But it was, the market. The market was thriving. It was exciting. There was a bakery, and there was the fudge guy, and there was the wine merchant, and there was the fish guy, and there was all sorts of things, right? And so we came here all the time. And then after that, I went to SFU, started working in other communities, and I kind of lost sight of my own backyard because I was always somewhere else. And then when I started working here in 2008, well, the market was closing. This had just finished a reno. New West was ramping up to development, but nowhere near to what it was, and it felt... And when we reopened the center, it was really, really hard. There was no one here. We were the only thing on the waterfront, and we were half full. Right? Right. We had just reopened our doors with basically an empty building that we were slowly filling up. The Hayek Square was under construction, so the overpass was closed. The market was just closing, booting out all the tenants and closing. And it felt like a ghost town, and it really felt depressed. And there was a lot of unhappy souls. Everybody was like, there's nothing happening on the waterfront. There's nothing going on. And then we slowly filled up our exhibits and ramped up our programs. The market started to reopen. The park was developed. And New West got a breath of fresh air on the waterfront with it. So there's been a lot of changes for sure. And rapid changes in the last little while. Yeah. I wasn't here in the big industrial days of the river.
No, and I wasn't either.
So I can't tell you that it's gone from a port town to, but to me, the waterfront has always been a pleasure stroll. Yeah. It's always been a tourist or a local jewel, but it's really coming into its own in the last few years because of all these components now that we have on the waterfront.
Do you have any kind of, let's see, I don't know, partnership's probably not the right word, but joint activities with, say, the NV Native or the River Market?
Yeah. So we do, well, yes. The market is quite involved with our River Fest. So we work with them, the Native as well. We do tours during River Fest. So we have these annual ongoing partnerships that are established. but we have an ongoing neighborly policy, right? So the success of the market is certainly helping us, and our success is certainly helping the market. So we are in constant dialogue about how we could do more, how we could do better, what's happening that may impact them, and vice versa. We're good neighbors, good friends. Aside from that, I can't think. Oh, and the Samson 5, we do shared school programs with them. So sometimes the school will come and do a program with them while we do another class here, and then we switch, right? Or they come here and then they go there. We do that a lot. And we're always open to more. Oh, and we did the same with the bike guy when he was first starting. We had a plan to do some joint programming, and then they kind of didn't do as well as they thought, so that kind of went to the wayside. But we're still open to these partnerships.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see how that might actually, if they had the right guide, that could work quite well.
So and the plan was, and it still is, it's just not happening because they're not that busy. But is for the kids to go on a bike tour of the waterfront, get some interpretation, and then come here and do some more in the center. And so that, again, just like we do with the natives, that they get a full morning of education on the water and a little bit of activity.
Okay.
Now we're also working on doing that with the MV Native.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I think somebody mentioned that they've done some joint programming before where the kids went out on the Native and then came here, or vice versa.
I think there was several years ago, and then for a little while they weren't too open to it. The whole kid liability on the boat kind of thing.
I can see that.
But, But I think there's a new wind that they might want to do some more. And now we're working on a one-day special event for schools in New Westminster next September during our River Fest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and see if that goes well. We'll look at it some more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you work with children, in the school sector, what age group is that, and what are some of the responses that you're getting to that knowledge about the history of the river? And are they accustomed, or do they already know that? Do they know that this used to be an industrial area? And
No. I know, and a good person to ask these more precise questions about kids would be our education director, Shannon. But from my knowledge, children they know the river because of salmon. Okay. They equate the river with salmon. They equate the river with pollution. And they're always surprised when well, the first thing we do when kids get here is we take them, no matter what program they're here to do, whether it's a program about Aboriginal fishing, about plants, about river environmental health, pollution, whatever, we take them to the river and say, what do you see? What is it you see? And the first thing they say is the river is dirty and it's polluted because it's brown. And so we explain to them that it's silt, and that it's actually a sign that the river is very healthy. And thanks to that silt, we have the land we live on, and that it has given us so many opportunities. They're always surprised to hear about that. And then we ask them to look at what they see, and they don't, all this stuff in front of them is not noticeable.
They don't actually know what it is either.
They don't realize that this is part of the reason why they have bananas in the morning and why they can have an iPhone, and that those cranes are bringing in all these goods from Asia that they need. They don't make the connection until we point it out to them. Right. The fact that all the cars that we drive in North America, most of them come right through here in the Fraser River, and so they don't get that. So it's really interesting to open up their eyes. So they know they're driven, I guess, by the curriculum, and they talk about Aboriginal people on the river, they understand that. Salmon in the river, they understand that. And then the whole environmental piece of pollution and all that. But the working side of the river, not really, and that's why for us it's really important to add that piece to the center.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about how that disconnect happened? That they only see the pollution and they don't see or they only see the environmental
and not the well, I think it comes from the adult world. Clearly, we feed them what they know, and it's up to us to open their eyes to what they don't know. And most of us, to be honest, ride over the Fraser River daily without really understanding the economic impact that the river has. Do people really know that cars in North America mainly come through here? In Canada anyways, do they know that the port is the gateway to the Pacific, and that the Fraser River is a major component of that strategy? I don't know. And so why would they pass that on to their kids? And of course, when you come to the waterfront, you come for, there's a romantic notion of the river, I think. You come and you enjoy the beautiful river. It's great here because we have these tugs right in front of us, and you can see what's happening. But I think we glance over it, so it's not something that we impart with our kids. That's my explanation. And for the school kids, well, they're driven by a curriculum,
right?
They don't get to sort of that economic piece very specifically. They talk about trade, and but do they talk about trade on the Fraser River? Do they talk about, I'm not sure. So I think that's just the way it is.
Okay.
And the kids we get are from kindergarten to grade 9.
Okay.
So yes, what age group we get? Yeah.
You have an impressive memory of our questions to be able to backtrack and say, that's what they really asked me.
That's right.
Okay, let's see. Oh, so you're hosting the Tourist Information Center now?
Yes. Yeah.
Does that?
We always have.
Oh,
not always. I should be careful what I say here. No, not always. When I came along, that was part of our plan, is to have a tourist information center here. At the time, Tourism New West was fairly new and had not a home, and so it was in their short-term plan to have a place here. And it's a nice combination, clearly. We're like a feature building here on the river. It is a tourist hub, and so it's a nice synergy to be able to have Tourism New West here with us and explain to them what they can see and do here and outside of New Westminster. So it's a static, we'll say, service in the winter. So from September to June, we are trained by Tourism New West to answer tourism questions, and we do that on their behalf. But they have a full staff in the summer, from June to August, or June, July, August. We're open 7 days a week, and they have counselors here working with our staff that's also trained to answer any tourism questions that may occur.
Okay.
And
are they going to move up to the Enville Center?
So they're moving to the Enville Center. So they found a permanent home now at the Enville Center, and they will move in September. So we have this summer with them, and we will always have a little bit of Tourism New West in us, I think, because we are where we are.
Right.
I think we will always answer questions on, whether they were here or not. We would have done that, and I think it will continue.
Right.
But officially, they will be moving to the Enville Center.
Do you think you'll keep some of the brochures and the?
I don't know.
Or you have other designs for that space?
Yeah, we have actually. We may have other designs for that space, which I cannot discuss at the moment.
No.
But yeah, we do, which involves a partnership on the river.
Okay.
So there might not be a lot of room for all these brochures, but we would certainly have some kind of sampling because we expected that we would get some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else do I know. How do you get to work?
There's a variety of ways. I don't live very far. I live in Sepperton, right by the Sepperton SkyTrain station.
Okay.
So this morning I came by SkyTrain.
Okay.
I walk once in a while, and I drive as well. So depending what my day entails, if I have to go to meetings or if I have to go pick up kids at the end of the day and rush them to the piano lesson, depends. I would say I drive more often than not. But every time I get to walk, it's a real treat because of the beauty of it, right? So, yeah.
Do you find the noise from the trucks?
Oh God, no. You know what? I really, truly, and I don't want to sound like a sucker, but I really, truly embrace the working river. Like it's just what it is. It's like I'm, I love development. I love density. I love the idea of a town thriving, moving, and I love when I hear the chugga-chug of the tugboats and the trains and the SkyTrain whizzing by. Yeah, it's all good.
Oh, you sound like Alan.
Yeah, actually, Alan and I are good soulmates. But yeah, it is what New West is, right? It's like it's a city.
Right.
When I don't want this stuff, I go to my cabin and I'm very happy there by a stream and in a quiet river, and I enjoy it. But here, this is part of the deal, and it works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
The only problem is that sometimes I'm sitting at my desk with the window wide open, and then the CN train comes by and goes for it, and then I have to apologize to whoever I'm talking to and say, "Let me close my window."
Right.
And they get it, They
Yeah,
get it. So it's just kind of fun.
Okay.
I'm not surprised that Alan gave you the same speech. That's funny.
Do you have any other questions, Andreas?
No.
No.
Great.
I think that's great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And like when I do interviews with people for jobs, I say to them, if you forgot anything, if you forgot to tell me anything, just send me an email.
Right.
And if I forgot to ask you a question, I'll send you an email.
Yes,
So you can do the same thing.
Yes. Okay, yes. And if you think of anything, please
I will.
send me an email. Thank you.
You're welcome.